Hi there, I'm Papier Block. I'm currently preparing for my second ever live show, so I thought I would document it with a video discussing what I'm using and how my setup's put together. So my main sound sources for this show will be the Make Noise Strega, the Make Noise O-Coast. These are controlled via the O control or no control. The SQ1. I'm also using a Korg keys, and these are being processed through a Tascam Portastudio and a Grundig portable reel-to-reel player. All of these then go into an audio interface, just a stereo in, which is connected to my iPad, and I'm running it through AUM, which I use for the kind of bigger reverbs and as an external mixing desk essentially. So anyway, I'll just talk a bit more about it in depth. Okay, well, let's go, shall we? At the heart of my setup is the Make Noise Easel, the Holy Trinity. Next to that, we have the SQ1 by Korg, which is sequencing the zero coast. It's also clocking the Korg keys. The no control, the top row, is sequencing the oscillator from Strega, and the bottom row is controlling the decay on no coast. So this allows for things like this. So each tone here has a correlating decay length on the no coast. So I've got a 5-step sequence running on the SQ1. I've also got a drone on the Tascam, which I can pitch around. I also have this beautiful Grundig 3200, which is being used as a tape delay. So this is coming out an aux 2 on the Tascam, which is mainly being used as a mixer. And I can feed that back into itself as it's being fed from aux 2 back into channel 1. So I can get these almost like reverby tape delays, washes. The beauty of using this is the EQ is very effective. So I can bring in or trim out anything I want. So then I've got this Strega, it's basically in drone mode, but I'm playing it, so but just for like a slightly different texture, I'm also using the Voca keys for bass. I find it's just fills out the low end really nicely and adds a bit more textural. I also use it on one track for like just a rhythmic Now, the SQ1 in step jump mode, you can play it like a keyboard. So, for one of the tracks, you see, becomes quite playable. So that, with the drone and a bit of tape delay, I'm normally doing this with 2 hands. It's amazing what you can do with just the turn of one little knob. And then you start playing with the cutoff. On the Korg, and then if you Anyway, I probably should have shot this top down. Just thought I'd do it quick and dirty. So that's an overview of the hardware. So that was a rough and ready overview of the sequencers and synthesizers and effects processors, if you can call them that I'm using to perform live. It's all very hands-on, it's all very in the moment. It allows me a lot of form, but then a lot of improvisation and sort of walking that tightrope between disaster and success. So, what I'll do is I'll talk about what's at the heart of it all. So everything, as I say, goes into my iPad Pro. What I'm doing is screen recording the iPad so I can talk about what's on the screen. So, here I have an app called AUM. Okay, it's probably one of the best things about making music on an iPad for me. I've used it long before I got into synthesis. It's just a great general mixer, but it's also entirely modular in the sense that you can create almost any signal path you want. If you don't know much about making music on the iPad, say on a computer you'd use a VST, on an iPad it's an AUV3. So within that world there are fantastic synthesizers, delays, reverbs, basically anything you could imagine. It exists. There's some fantastic experimental things, some incredible developers. So I use it a lot, and it's kind of the way I devised my whole setup, my whole studio, was to be having this at the heart of it. So I'll talk you through what's on the screen just now. So I've got 3 iterations of a synthesizer called Ripple Maker, which is like a West Coast style synth in AUV3 form. I have a sequence that is running off of another synthesizer which has a sequencer built in, so you can load that as a MIDI plugin, and this is running some, as you can see, it's got mutations, so you can do kind of pseudo-generative things within that. So this is running one iteration, another, and another. So I'll let you hear that. So this will be for the third track I play. It's actually on my latest EP that came out in Subplant Records, called Birch, Broom, Pine. This is the track Pine, which began on Christmas Day in bed, playing about with my iPad Pro. Maybe it was Boxing Day. Anyway, so I was staying at my in-laws, and this is what I came up with before I went downstairs. So, as you can see, these 3 iterations of Hilda are triggering these 3 synths. So that's the 3 kind of polymetric melodies. You know, there's a bit of counterpoint there. So with that sequences, we now get into like the effects section. So here I've got some white noise that's been modulated by Filter Station 2 by Audio Damage. I've got a notch filter and a low pass filter at the first stage. On the second stage I've got 2 bandpass filters. One's a 4-pole and one's a 941. So obviously that's creating textures of the sea, waves, trying to go for a Susan Chaney kind of vibe with that. It's also being panned by this great app called PanFlow. You can draw in the pattern you want it to pan. So this is creating texture, it's creating spatial kind of awareness in the space, hopefully. Okay, so we then go into this section, which I've got Koala Sampler here. So I don't normally include samples in my music, but for some reason when I played live using this technique, I have. So I've got some samples here. I'll just turn off this. So when the first song starts, I have a recording of my partner singing. The Koala Sampler, if you don't know about it, is mind-blowingly amazing. The recent updates, they've included like a mixer, more effects. You've got 4 channels. Within AUM, you can output, it's like multiple channel out, affect each sample differently, group them, compress them, do everything, all within Koala itself. But here I'm just using it to trigger samples. Really simplistic use of it. Weird way to say simplistic there. So with this I've got auto pan. So again I'm creating this like effect of space. I have the sea coming in, this angelic voice coming from the sea, and then there would be the main synth line start. Come in. Sorry about that. Turn that down. Mimicking So that was actually an idea I had after I'd started creating and composing the set. So I took my dictaphone, it's lying about here somewhere, and I got my partner to sing into that, and then I put that into Koala Sampler and put effects on it. And I just thought that was a nice way to start the gig. I've also got some samples from some movies I like, some songs that I like. There's a fantastic song by a band called Brainiac, which I can't remember the title of, and it starts with this sample.
Give me some love. Give me some love.
Great tune.
Give me God save us all.
Sadly, no longer with us.
God save us all.
Fantastic band, Brainiac. Go and check them out if you don't know them already. Also some samples from Christopher Nolan film.
Just let me read. Please. Just let me read.
Memento. That's where that's from. So that's there. Again, it's just to add more things to the kind of the world of sound I'm trying to create for this performance. Okay, so I've also got some eventide delay on reverb. So that's just, again, creating some space. I've got a bit of a crazier delay, octave scatter delay on Other Desert City, again by Audio Damage. This just creates these pitched and randomized delays just to add a bit it's like a call and response kind of meandering delay, so it's not your typical delay. Again, that'll come in like the sort of second part of the performance, just to add a bit more emotional depth. So everything, each channel is being bussed to bus A, apart from the main reverb, which I've used a mid-side balance on just to push it further out in the mix on the left and right hand side. Also, I find when I played live the first time, I just like separated the sub bass and kind of pushed that forward a bit, because obviously practicing in your own space, I don't have any sub speakers or any kind of bass drivers here, so I just find this worked really effectively live. So what I've done is I've taken dials by Audio Thing and Heimbach, and I've essentially bandpassed the low frequencies and put a bit of resonance and drive or saturation on that, a little bit of compression, and pushed it into the middle using the mid side on that channel. So a lot of elements are going to be panning and sweeping across the stereo field, and then you'll have ambiances drifting in and out, but anytime there's a bass frequency, it'll sit in the center and be like punchy. I think often people think about ambient as being, you know, mid-trebly, a lot of this kind of washes and decaying reverbs, which there are a lot of, but I like to add a bit of low end to it. It's a low end theory. Watch a video on it. Okay, so everything else is getting put through Grand Finale, which is from Cleve Grand. They make amazing plugins for iOS. Obviously you can get them out with iOS, but to have something of this standard that makes such a difference for playing live or for mastering your tracks, Grand Finale version 2, fantastic. So here I've got in the Gentle Master mode, I've got a very little bit of additive signal path. The compressor, I've just kind of left it, I've got it at tight and bass, but that's more because I've got the bass coming out there. It just gives it a bit of grit. There's a bit of gentle compression and huge stereo width, and importantly, it's got a limiter. So when you're playing live, it's very important that no matter how hard you push this gear, when it goes out and into the desk, you don't want to blow people's heads off. So hopefully this will facilitate that. Okay. So that's the overview of this section. Now, I am also sequencing the No Coast. I've probably called it 3 different names. So I'm also sequencing that with an iteration of Hilda as well. So, as you'll see here, this one has some mutation on it. So I have got a 15-step sequence, and it is got 22% chance of mutation. So this is adding a bit of randomness, a bit of generative functionality to it. Set to 16th notes. So the other sequence is a 5-step sequence, and yeah, it's just giving these splashes of melody coming across the top. So there we go. Now, what I didn't say was that the Ripple Maker and Hilda Synth and this thing that I'm not using, Salome, we'll say, are all made by the same developer, which is Boss. So his stuff, fantastic, absolutely incredible. Yeah, I urge you, if you have not tried to make music using an iPad, go out and get an iPad and make some music on it. It's so deep and incredible, the amount of experimental stuff especially you can do, and they're getting to the point that you could literally do everything on an iPad now, which I've been hoping that it would get like that for the past 10 years. So fantastic. Lastly, Outer Space 2. So fantastic emulation of the Space Echo. Great spring emulation and great tape delay emulation. And as someone who absolutely loves tape, audio things, tape ones are just like incredible, and a lot lighter than carrying them all to a gig. Okay, so I know it's rambly, and I know that it's probably not very in depth, but I'm just doing this as a matter of documenting my own state. So far, when I'm starting to prepare for a gig, first I decide what I'm going to use. So I really wanted to have tape involved in this live. Last time I played, I couldn't carry everything I wanted, so this time I made sure I got myself a portable, reliable, hopefully, tape machine I could use as a tape echo. In future, use it for tape loops, live looping, things like that. This 4-track is just fantastic for mixing live, EQing. Obviously it's very noisy. You can drive it quite nicely, you get a good bit of saturation. You can also, if you needed to, you could record loop tapes, not little loop tapes, you could record long loops onto a normal cassette tape. And then, should anything fail within your set, if you're doing it like me, where clock and things like that isn't too important, then that's a backup. And that actually saved my bacon the first time I played. Yep, it's got 8 inputs. It's got a cassette player. You can pitch, you know. Fantastic. Okay, Strega's great, emotive, really like visceral at times, elegantly beautiful at other times, and you can use it to process external audio. So yeah, it's like things that can do multiple things when you're playing live. The Old Coast, I just wanted that West Coast kind of sound. Obviously with the Make Noise Easel, as it's known in places, but I wanted the sequencing to be a certain way, and for that the SQ1 I just love it. There's so much. I think a lot of people might look at it and just think of, you know, repetitive sequences, but when you get into the fact you can play it like a keyboard, you can do these weird little jumpy, you know, step jump melodies. The fact you can have 16 or however many, 16 steps. There's a lot it can't do, but there's actually a lot it can do that you didn't realise it could. It's a MIDI to CV converter, for one. That's what I'm using it to do. So I switch between the CV outs mid-set, so that'll start firing the sequence from Hilda off the iPad into the No Coast, which is really cool. I could use MIDI into that, but I just find it easier using the CV. And the no control, zero control, no coast, no control. Okay, we'll go no control. It's got a lot of tweakability. I mean, for me, I want the pitches to remain the same across the top row. And then you've got the strength row, which can function as anything, really. I'm not using that within this, but the bottom row, when you're playing it with touchpads, essentially each row can become like a remote control for any parameter you want on your synth. So as I was showing earlier, you know, I'm decreasing the gate length, I'm decreasing the decay, and then increasing it across a sequence as I play it. But I can also have that parameter and tweak it as I'm pressing that with my finger that's touching it. So it, you know, having that like remote control function for a knob that's buried underneath some cables up there, that's fantastic. Yeah, so love the make noise stuff, absolutely fantastic. Like playability, can get to like really exquisite beauty and then just take it to like extreme decaying carnage. Yeah. So Volca keys, you know, it's the Volca keys. If you've never played it in a massive speaker, it's one of the best sounding things. I genuinely feel there's places where the Volca keys and the Strega cross over into each other. It's a very, very similar. It's just that bucket brigade. Was it PT 2899 delay or something? Just you can get some pretty weird things. Ooh. Ooh. Anyway, so not that I'm using it for anything like that, but there we go. I'm using an Arturia Mini Fuse 2 interface, if you're interested. So yeah, the gig is in 2 days, this being Wednesday the 19th. So the gig is on Friday the 21st. We're going to record the gig and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'll have some footage to put within this video. This being my first talking to camera video. If you've even watched this, that's amazing. Yeah, there you go. So, wish me luck, and here's me playing the gig then. Okay, cool.